Welcome to Deep Dive, the novel Aftershow. This is the podcast where we uncover the hidden layers, unravel the twists, and explore the worlds within words of the novels of, well, me, J. Kevin Tumlinson. Whether you've just finished the book or you're curious about what's inside, spoilers and all, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, listeners. Today we're going deep into some fascinating historical material, and I gotta say, this one's a bit of a thriller.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about the Demon Corps.
Hmm.
Yeah. Imagine, just picture it. You're back in the 1940s. You got swing music playing. Folks are wearing fedoras. But behind the scenes, you got this super secret project going on. The Manhattan Project.
Right.
The race to build the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And at Los Alamos, you got all these brilliant minds, physicists, engineers.
The best in the world.
The best in the world, pushing the boundaries of science, to create this weapon.
And perhaps pushing their luck a little, too.
Yeah, maybe pushing their luck, definitely.
Like that.
A little bit too far in some cases.
All right.
We've got a mountain of material to go through for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Declassified documents, personal journals of the scientists, historical records.
It's a real treasure trove.
It's a treasure trove. And, going through these, what's striking is alongside this incredible scientific brilliance, there's this real sense of urgency.
Oh, yeah. Definitely urgency.
Pressure, even recklessness, surrounding the whole project.
Absolutely. I mean, they were in a race against time, against the Nazis.
Right.
To develop this weapon. The stakes couldn't have been higher.
And at the center of all this, the heart of the story, we got this, thing, I guess you'd call it.
Thing.
Yeah, it's a sphere of plutonium, but it's not just any plutonium. This stuff is so potent, so dangerous.
So powerful.
It earned this nickname that sounds like it's straight out of a comic book or a horror movie.
A horror movie, yeah.
The Demon Corps.
The Demon Corps. And it's a name that, it fits.
It fits, yeah.
You hear what this sphere of plutonium was involved in?
Yeah. So why Demon Corps? Well, this thing, it was involved in not one, but two fatal accidents.
Two fatal accidents.
And then after that, it vanishes.
Oof.
Gone. So, this Demon Corps, it's more than just a piece of this Manhattan Project history. It's like a symbol.
A symbol of...
A symbol of,
of the incredible power.
Of the incredible power.
Yeah.
We unleashed with the atomic bomb.
Absolutely. And the danger.
Danger of that power.
Even in its rawest form.
Yeah, even before it's, turned into a bomb.
Exactly. It's a chilling reminder that this power, it can be incredibly dangerous, even when you're just trying to study it, to understand it.
Right. And the sources, they describe these accidents in detail, and it's chilling stuff.
Chilling, yeah.
In one instance, you have this scientist, Louis Slotin. He's brilliant.
Brilliant.
But he's using a screwdriver.
A screwdriver.
Yeah, a screwdriver.
Of all things.
Of all things. To keep these two halves of a beryllium sphere, which are basically reflectors from closing around the core.
Reflectors,
yeah. And, he slips.
Just a tiny slip.
A tiny slip, and boom.
A burst of radiation.
It's
hard to even imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to even...
Being that close to something so powerful and having it essentially, go critical.
Right. And that screwdriver slip, it exposed Slotin and 7 other physicists in the room to a lethal dose of radiation.
Yeah, a lethal dose. He died 9 days later.
9 days.
It's a tragedy.
And the thing is, what makes it even more, unsettling is that just 9 months earlier, you have another scientist, Harry Daghlian.
Yeah.
Working alone with the Corps.
Alone
this time. And he has a similar accident.
He's using a brick of tungsten carbide.
A brick.
Yeah. He was basically building a neutron reflector, kind of improvising, and the brick slipped. And again, a burst of radiation.
So 2 brilliant scientists dead within months of each other, and both because of what seemed like small mistakes.
Right.
A slip of a screwdriver, a brick falling out of place.
It makes you wonder, were they reckless, overconfident, or was it just the pressure cooker environment of the Manhattan Project?
Right. It's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, the pressure, the urgency to win the war, to beat the Germans to the bomb, it must have been immense.
Immense, yeah.
And then you have this excitement, right? This feeling of being on the cutting edge of science.
A frontier mentality, almost.
A frontier mentality. Maybe they just underestimated the danger.
Maybe they thought they could control it,
Right. And into this mix, into this world of Well, scientific brilliance and, let's face it, a bit of hubris walks our main character, Dr. Leo Stringer.
Ah, Stringer.
Yeah. Now, Stringer, he's a physicist at Los Alamos.
He is.
But unlike some of his colleagues, his name, it's not in the history books,
Not a household name.
Not a household name, exactly. He was struggling professionally.
He was, yeah, kind of overshadowed.
Overshadowed by some of the bigger names like, say, Richard Feynman.
Oh, Feynman.
Feynman, yeah. Oppenheimer.
Some rock stars of physics.
Rock stars of physics, right.
Oh, yeah. And Feynman, he actually, he makes a little appearance in our sources,
He does.
Yeah, he recounts this rather humorous anecdote about Stringer and a mishap involving a substance that became known as Stringer's folly.
Stringer's folly. That sounds more like a bad dessert than a scientific breakthrough.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But no, it was actually a failed attempt by Stringer to create a new type of shielding material.
Shielding.
Yeah,
yeah.
To protect against radiation.
Right.
And the experiment, well, let's just say it didn't go as planned.
So here's Stringer, right?
Yeah.
He's grappling with these professional frustrations.
Yeah.
Not quite reaching those heights of a Feynman, but the sources. They also reveal he was battling some pretty serious personal demons.
Personal demons.
Yeah, he had a gambling problem, a bad one.
Racking up debts.
Racking up some serious debts, yeah.
And it wasn't just the gambling,
Yeah.
He was constantly being compared to his brother, who was, very successful in business.
Adding to that feeling of inadequacy.
Exactly.
So you've got this pressure cooker environment of the Manhattan Project, right?
Yeah.
A scientist who's trying to prove himself and a whole lot of personal baggage.
A recipe for disaster, you might say.
Yeah, you might say that. So where does the Demon Core fit into all of this?
Well, this is where the story takes a turn into like a Cold War spy thriller. Yeah. Stringer, he disappears. Vanishes. No note, no goodbye, nothing. And guess what's missing along with him?
Let me guess. It wasn't his library card.
No.
It was the Demon Core, right?
Bingo.
So you've got a rogue scientist, a missing sphere of plutonium.
Capable of unimaginable destruction?
What could possibly go wrong?
But it's a huge mystery, right?
A huge mystery.
And the investigators at the time, they were hampered by, everything.
What do you mean?
The Manhattan Project was top secret,
Classified.
Classified. So they couldn't exactly go around asking questions, couldn't alert the public.
Yeah.
And the technology at the time, let's just say it wasn't what we have today. They were basically working in the dark.
So they're searching for this missing scientist.
Desperate to find him and the core.
And this incredibly dangerous chunk of plutonium.
Right. Enough to, cause a lot of damage.
Yeah. Years pass. And then they find Stringer's body.
They do.
What happened? Did he try to return the core and have an accident?
That's what they thought at first.
Or did someone, silence him?
Well, the official finding was accidental radiation exposure.
Radiation exposure.
Yeah. His remains were heavily irradiated, buried in a lead-lined container.
Wow.
Encased in concrete.
That sounds pretty conclusive.
It does, doesn't it? But there were whispers, doubts about the official story.
Okay. Like what?
Some people pointed to Stringer's gambling debts.
Right. His need for money.
His desperate need for money.
So maybe he tried to sell the core or use it as leverage.
Exactly.
So was his death truly an accident or was it something more sinister?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is. So we've got this Cold War mystery. A vanished scientist, a missing core, whispers of a conspiracy.
A real page-turner.
Yeah, but how does all of this connect to the present day? Why are we diving into this story now, decades later?
Because the Demon Core, it hasn't stayed buried in the past.
What do you mean?
It resurfaces, and in a way no one could have predicted.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
We're fast-forwarding from the 1940s to the present day. And we meet Dr. Dan Kotler.
Kotler.
Yeah. He's an archaeologist, but not the kind you see digging up dinosaur bones,
Right.
He works with the FBI.
The FBI?
Yeah, their Historic Crimes Unit.
Historic crime?
It's a real thing. They investigate crimes with historical significance.
Wow. So Kotler's like an Indiana Jones of the FBI?
Something like that. And his partner is Agent Roland Denzel.
Denzel.
Yeah. Let's just say he's not exactly thrilled about dealing with ancient artifacts.
I bet. More of a just the facts, ma'am kind of guy, right?
Precisely. Fingerprints, DNA, that's his world.
Hard evidence.
Hard evidence. Kotler, on the other hand, he sees connections that others miss.
Connections.
Yeah. Patterns in history. And these skills, they're put to the test when a new terrorist group emerges. They call themselves Unionis and Morte.
Unionis and Morte.
Yeah. Latin for death unites us all.
That's not a good sign.
No, not at all. And they're threatening to detonate an atomic bomb.
An atomic bomb. Hold on, who are these guys?
Their leader is a former tech entrepreneur.
Okay.
Named Lee Coben.
Coben.
Yeah. A man with a tragic past.
Tragic.
He lost his business, then his daughter in a terrible accident, and then his wife, she committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
And to make matters worse, the authorities, they were threatening to charge him with negligent homicide in his wife's death.
So he's blaming the system for his personal tragedies.
Yeah, she's fueled by this deep hatred for the government and for big tech.
So how does he fit into this whole demon core mystery?
Well, this is where Kotler's expertise comes in.
Okay.
He starts digging, and he finds these clues.
Clues?
Seemingly insignificant things like a statue of a Native American woman holding a sphere.
A statue?
Yeah. It sounds random, but...
It does sound random.
But Kotler, he's an archaeologist, right? He sees the significance of objects, the symbolism.
Right.
And he realizes that this statue, it might be a key.
A key to what?
Unlocking Stringer's secrets, and maybe even the location of the demon core.
Hold on. Are you saying Stringer's disappearance, it wasn't just about escaping his gambling debts or his professional failures. He had a plan, a reason for taking the core.
That's what Kotler believes.
And that this plan, it's somehow connected to this Coben guy, this terrorist, in the present day.
Yeah. It's like Stringer's actions decades ago set a chain of events in motion.
That are still playing out today.
Exactly. And the clock is ticking because Coben, he's not just making empty threats.
He's not.
No, he's kidnapped the governor of New York.
He kidnapped the governor.
Yeah. And, well, things escalate pretty quickly from there.
Okay, this is getting intense.
Intense. This is just the beginning.
So we have a missing core, a dead physicist, a terrorist mastermind, and a governor's life hanging in the balance. Where do we go from here?
Well, Kotler's investigation, it takes him deep into the world of Cold War espionage. He dives into declassified documents, personal journals, historical records.
He's trying to understand Stringer.
Trying to understand Stringer, his motives, his connections. But there's a twist.
A twist.
Coben, he's playing a very clever game.
What do you mean?
He's leading the authorities on a wild goose chase.
A wild goose chase.
Ah.
While his real target lies elsewhere.
You got it.
So it's a race against time. Kotler has to decipher the past to understand the present.
Right.
And figure out what Coben is really after.
Before it's too late.
Okay? I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Coben, he's a master manipulator, you know?
You mentioned
He's feeding the authorities information, leading them to believe his target is Washington, D.C.
the Capitol building.
Exactly.
But Kotler, he wasn't convinced, right?
No, not at all.
He kept thinking about those addresses, the ones from Coben's notes.
The ones that seemed random at first?
Yeah, scattered all over the Bay Area.
They weren't random.
They weren't.
Not at all.
What were they then?
They were all tech firms.
Tech firms.
Yeah, some small startups.
Silicon Valley.
The heart of Silicon Valley.
So Coben, he wasn't just targeting the government. He was aiming for something much bigger.
Much bigger. An attack on the digital infrastructure of the entire country.
Wow. But how? With a single bomb.
Well, that's where Kotler's historical knowledge really comes into play.
Okay.
He remembered reading about a phenomenon, it's called an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP.
EMP, like in those post-apocalyptic movies?
Exactly.
Where all the electronics just fry. Is that even a real thing?
It's very real.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Think about it.
Okay.
Electronics are everywhere.
They are.
And they're all susceptible to electromagnetic interference.
Right.
A powerful enough EMP, it could overload circuits, corrupt data.
Essentially, like, send us back to the Stone Age.
Technologically speaking, yeah.
That's terrifying.
It is a pretty terrifying thought.
So Coben, if he detonated the demon core at a high altitude, he could create this EMP.
An EMP that could cripple electronics across a huge area, potentially the entire country.
No, he's not just a terrorist. He's a techno-terrorist.
Exactly. He's turning our reliance on technology against us.
That's really scary.
Right.
So while everyone else is focused on protecting the Capitol building, Kotler realizes Coben's real target is Silicon Valley.
Right.
And that his weapon is this EMP generated by the demon core.
But convincing the FBI to shift gears, to change their focus,
Yeah.
well, it's not that easy.
I bet.
The wheels of bureaucracy, they move slowly.
Right?
Resources have been allocated. There's political pressure.
To be seen as taking action.
Exactly. Liz Ludlam, the director of historic crimes, she's caught in the middle.
Yeah, I can imagine.
She trusts Kotler's insights, but she's also facing pushback from this committee.
This committee?
Yeah, they're laser focused on Washington, D.C., on protecting the Capitol.
So it's intuition versus bureaucracy.
In a nutshell.
What does Kotler do?
He and Denzel, they decide to take a calculated risk. They're officially sidelined, but they fly to San Francisco anyway.
Wow, going rogue.
Determined to stop Coben, even if they have to do it on their own.
Talk about dedication. So they're in San Francisco, but where do they even begin?
They start by retracing Coben's steps. Literally.
Literally.
They visit his old haunts, talk to people who knew him, even the janitor who used to clean his office.
Wow. Trying to understand his mindset?
His motivations, his patterns of behavior.
So they're piecing together this psychological profile, trying to anticipate his next move.
Right, but Coben, he's a brilliant mind, even if it's a twisted one.
Right.
He's always several steps ahead.
Leaving false leads.
Misdirection.
Okay.
They do discover something interesting, though.
What's that?
An obsession with history.
History?
Yeah, specifically with societies that have collapsed.
Collapse, like fallen apart.
Yeah, and then been reborn.
Interesting.
And they uncover a connection to Stanford University's propulsion lab.
Propulsion lab. What does that have to do with an atomic bomb?
He needs a delivery system.
A delivery system.
A way to get the core high enough.
To create that EMP.
Exactly. They think he might be trying to build a rocket or some kind of missile.
This is like something out of a spy thriller.
It is, isn't it?
So they're tracking Coben through his interest in history, his visits to this propulsion lab.
They're getting closer.
Do they actually find him?
They get a lead on a graduate student at Stanford, Karen Stanley.
Karen Stanley.
They think she might be helping Coben.
Okay.
But things go sideways when they try to question her.
Sideways how?
She's not just a student. She's a true believer in Coben's vision.
She's bought into his whole doomsday prophecy thing.
Completely.
And she's not alone, is she?
No, she's not. They end up in a shootout with Coben's followers.
A shootout? Did anyone get hurt?
Denzel took a hit. Thankfully, his vest protected him.
Oh, wow.
But it was a close call.
So they managed to apprehend this Karen.
They did.
And under interrogation, what did she say?
She reveals something crucial. Coben's fixated on a local cathedral.
A cathedral? Is he going to hold the congregation hostage or something?
Not quite. Kotler knows Coben has a personal connection to this particular cathedral.
A personal connection.
He found solace there during his university years.
Oh, it's...
Place of reflection.
Okay.
Kotler thinks he might be using it as a hideout, a base of operations.
So they finally have a location. What happens when they get there?
They arrive with a small team of FBI agents.
Okay.
The place seems deserted at first.
Okay.
But they quickly realize they're outnumbered.
Outnumbered?
By Coben's men.
Oh, no.
A firefight breaks out.
Oh, wow.
Kotler and Denzel find themselves fighting their way through the cathedral.
Through a cathedral.
Trying to stop Coben before it's too late.
This is intense.
It is. Talk about bringing history to life, right?
So do they make it to Coben in time?
They fight their way to the bell tower.
The bell tower.
And that's where they find him.
Standing next to a pile of Bibles.
No, he's standing next to a makeshift rocket.
A rocket?
His hand on the launch switch.
He's going to launch the attack.
The Demon Corps is nowhere to be seen.
Okay.
But the rocket, it's armed and ready to go.
Oh, no. What does Kotler do?
It's a tense standoff.
I bet.
Kotler tries to reason with Coben.
Reason with him.
Reminds him that his actions won't bring back his family.
Right.
That he's become the very thing he claims to hate.
A destroyer.
A force of chaos.
So does Coben listen.
He hesitates.
He does.
He seems torn, wrestling with his demons.
Is there hope?
It's a glimmer, but then he flips the switch.
No.
And the rocket, it blasts off into the night sky.
He launched it. Silicon Valley is doomed.
Not quite.
What do you mean?
The rocket, it didn't have the Demon Corps.
It didn't.
No. Coben, he played everyone.
He played everyone.
He used the threat of the Demon Corps, the kidnapped governor, the rocket launch, all as a distraction.
So then a trap.
To manipulate the authorities, the media, everyone.
So his true objective, it lies elsewhere. But what is it? If he didn't want to destroy Silicon Valley with an EMP, what was the point of all this?
That's the puzzle Kotler is left to solve.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Yeah.
What's next? So Coben launches this rocket, right? Big public spectacle.
Yeah.
But without the Demon Corps.
Right.
So what was the point of it all? It's like he staged this elaborate magic trick, made everyone look one way while he palmed the real prize.
He's a master manipulator, that's for sure.
But in this case, the prize is a chunk of plutonium that could, vaporize a city.
It's a dangerous game he's playing.
It is. So what could be bigger than holding a governor hostage, threatening the Capitol, faking a nuclear attack?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is. What's the real objective here?
Kotler and Denzel, they go back to basics.
Basics.
Yeah, analyzing everything they've learned about Coben, his writings, his online activity, those notes they found.
Right.
And they start to see a pattern.
A pattern. Okay. Give us
Think bigger than revenge.
Bigger than revenge.
Coben isn't just lashing out, at the system he blames for his personal tragedies.
Right.
He's obsessed with history, but not just, the facts and dates.
Okay.
He sees these patterns of collapse and renewal.
Collapse and renewal.
Yeah, civilizations rising and falling, and he believes he has a role to play in the next cycle.
So he's not just a terrorist. He's a, what it would be, prophet.
Yeah.
He thinks he's going to bring about some kind of new world order.
That's what it looks like.
A world reshaped, according to his vision.
And the demon core is the key to it all.
The key.
He sees it as this symbol of both creation and destruction, the power to wipe the slate clean and build something new.
From the ashes, right. But where does he even begin? Does he try to build another bomb?
We don't know.
Or hide it somewhere as leverage?
That's the unsettling part.
It is.
The sources end with Coben disappearing, the demon core still missing.
So he could be anywhere.
Anywhere. Planning his next move.
Wow. So what does all this mean for us, for the world today? What's the takeaway from this deep dive into the demon core? This vanished scientist, this terrorist with a messiah complex?
Well, I think it highlights the enduring power of the past.
The past.
Yeah, how it shapes the present,
Right.
The decisions made during the Manhattan Project, the creation of this incredibly potent substance.
Plutonium.
Right, plutonium, it continues to have repercussions today.
We're still grappling with the consequences decades later.
Exactly, and it's not just about nuclear weapons,
What do you mean?
It's about the choices we make, the technologies we create.
Right.
And the responsibility that comes with that power.
The power to create, but also to destroy.
Exactly. And the story, it also reminds us that even the brightest minds, they can be blinded by their own brilliance, by their ambition,
Mm-hmm.
The accidents with Demon Core, they're a sobering reminder.
A reminder of what?
The need for caution, for humility when we're dealing with forces we don't fully understand.
We can't let our reach exceed our grasp, right?
Exactly. And what about Coben?
Yeah, what about him? He's a villain, right? A madman with a dangerous weapon.
I think he's more complex than that.
More complex?
He represents something, more disturbing.
Disturbing how?
He embodies the dangers of ideology taken to extreme.
Extremes.
Yeah. A worldview distorted by grief, by anger.
He's a cautionary tale, then.
He is.
Yeah.
A reminder that the line between good and evil, it can be blurry.
Right.
And that even the most well-intentioned actions can have unintended consequences.
Consequence.
It's even catastrophic ones. We have to be careful,
We do. So Coben, he chose not to detonate the demon core over Silicon Valley.
He did.
But what does that tell us?
Is he biding his time?
Waiting for the right moment to strike.
Or has he evolved, his vision taking a different, perhaps even more dangerous form?
Those are some pretty unsettling questions.
They are. Questions worth pondering, especially as we consider how the past continues to shape the world we live in.
It seems the story of the demon core. It's far from over.
It's out there, somewhere.
A symbol of our scientific achievements, but also our capacity for self-destruction.
A reminder that the future is always uncertain.
Shaped by the choices we make.
Both individually and as a society.
Well, that's a thought-provoking note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, listeners. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay curious.
Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive, the novel Aftershow. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with your fellow book lovers and leave us a review. And visit kevintumlinson.com/books to dive into your next adventure.